Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi everyone, it is time to do another ranking of recent releases. And in this one, we have 31 recent releases to chat about. These ones are going back to November 21st. So these will be books that I either read an arc for or they had come out within a month of me reading them. So that is kind of the time frame of recent releases. I do also have a few upcoming releases on here because there's some that I've read arcs for that aren't even out yet. So I'll be very vague about those ones, but I'm like, I might as well rank them in this one. But yeah, I love doing these. You guys have really liked these videos too. It's kind of a thing of like, which recent releases do I think are worth your time? I read honestly 20 to 30 new releases every month, so I feel like that is a service that I can provide to you guys that way. So we're gonna go through these though, and I rank them from, I start with the ones I like the least and go all the way up to any new favorites that I happen to have. So we're going to start with books that I gave 3 stars to, and this time around there are only 2 of those. I didn't have any DNFs, and there are 2 that I gave 3 stars to. So the first one that I only gave 3 stars was Big Daddy by Daisy Jane. Now this was a surprise release from her, which was super cool. She has been kind of changing up her strategy after she had some books pirated from her, which I mean is a sad truth that just happens to most authors. Like if you are even a little bit successful with your story, someone is going to want to try to steal them and make money off of them. And so that kind of changed how Daisy Jane was doing things for a little while, which made me sad because I had been doing arcs for her for a few and then she like stopped it, but that's okay because Big Daddy, I didn't really care for it. So this one is a daddy kink romance. It's a best friend's dad. It's also an office romance. And the issue is that this became an issue of like, if you've seen the like TikTok sound that is, that's enough slices, where you're like, more, oh, that's enough. Hey, that's enough. It's enough slices. And they like freak out like that. That is what this one was. I like daddy kink. I like it subtly, but I do enjoy it. And the way that it went in this one, like, and not only is it like daddy kink where she's calling him daddy, sometimes she's calling him Big Daddy, and it's just, it's insane. But yeah, the heroine actually starts as like a sex worker who sells, like, it's kind of an OnlyFans, but it's also like selling photos of her feet, and there's also some men that have been kind of like sugar daddies and provided for her. And when her friend's dad finds out about this, he offers her a job and tries to get her off of this site, but she really likes it and she likes being kinky, and she ends up, they kind of then start this kind of kinky relationship between them. But of course that is going to affect her relationship with her friend and his daughter, so things are going to get quite sticky for them pretty quickly. So yeah, I gave that one 3 stars. And then the other recent release that I was quite disappointed with, and I just talked about this one in my last weekly wrap-up, I think, or will I be talking about it this week? I don't know when, but The Empress by Kristen Cass, I was sadly pretty disappointed with. I didn't care for how they... I didn't really care for the romance in this was the biggest issue. And also the world of Towerfall, how we get there, what it is, like it was just all very confusing to me. And I was really skimming by the end of it. I was kind of bored, but I also, as I said, really didn't care for the romance. Like she ends up in this world and she ends up fucking the guy within like a couple of days. And also, this is kind of written to represent kind of a historical world, even though it is fantasy. And the type of kinks that the hero was into, calling her good girl, tying her up, it just felt very anachronistic. And like, why do we have to throw good girls into this? Like, there can be like pet talk, or not pet talk isn't pet play, but like there can be pet names and like dirty talk, but why do we have to go to good girl? That just, it sat really wrong with me and I didn't appreciate it. So yeah. And because that one wasn't for an indie author, I didn't feel bad about just giving it a 3-star, because that's what it felt like to me. So next, I had only one 3.5 star, so let me find that on my list. Yes, so Visions of Darkness by A.L. Jackson was a 3.5 star for me, rounded up to 4. But this is another case of, like, so this one has a cliffhanger. This is going to be a fantasy world, and there was a cliffhanger for both the couple and for the story. And there is a lot that she was setting up with this. I'm not so annoyed that I won't continue on. This also felt very like YA to me, because and not just because there wasn't more like heat in it. We're building that with the couple, like that's fine. But the heroine is 17 turning 18 in this one. Now there is a story reason for her to be 17 that has to do with her parents and stuff, but I just didn't care for that. And yeah, and then this is one where like there are parallel worlds, and in one world she's like a demon fighter, and in the other world she's a teenager in high school. So there was some like Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibes, but also it was just, I don't know. I will read another one in this series at least, so hopefully that brings home a lot of this. I don't know whether it's just supposed to be a duology or a trilogy. I'm actually going to be interviewing A.L. Jackson, so I'm going to ask her that question of how many books are planned in this series for sure. Okay, next up, we got the 4-star books, and we got a lot of these ones, right? This is usually my most common rating that I have. So, our 4-star books. Let's start at the top here. We had Bull Rush by Maggie Rardon. This was kindly sent to me by the author, but it wasn't an arc. It was like a release day package. So, this one is a dark cowboy romance, but he's also an ex-football player and a felon. He actually goes to jail for is it like manslaughter? So it's funny because when I read this book, this was the first book by Maggie Rardon that I read. I have since read Mind to Gain, which actually has said manslaughter happen in it, because the hero Ramsey actually kills a man who was stalking his friend's girlfriend, and the man had like tried to kill her, and he stepped in and stopped it, and then he went too far and the man died. So he was put in prison for a while, and now he's out. Now he thought that he was a divorced man, and it turns out when he gets out of prison that his wife's home is listed as his location, and he's like, I don't have a wife. And they're like, yes you do. And apparently their divorce papers were not filed correctly, and now because of that he like needs to be able to show he has a stable place to stay. And so when he also finds out that he finds out that he is still married about the same time that his wife, who they both thought was an ex-wife, is about to get married to a different man. And when she tries to get a marriage certificate, a marriage license, that's what it's called, she's not able to because she's still listed as married. So they both find this out about the same time. And she runs a like bed and breakfast in their town, and his family is actually a pretty bad reputation type of guys. But he was also friends with her brothers and everything too. So now he's back in town, and he decides that it's fortuitous that he's not actually divorced to her, and he doesn't want to be divorced to her just yet. And so he offers her, because she does need a loan, she needs some money to keep her bed and breakfast going. He actually offers her a loan if she'll stay married to him for a certain amount of time, so that he can use her as a place for like to have his parole, as well as he's going to try to win her back. And apparently her current fiance is totally fine with that, because they're going to get a boatload of money if she's able to resist him for a certain amount of time. So we'll see how that goes. But I did really enjoy it, and I can't wait to read the next one in the series. And again, I really liked Mine to Gain as well, which was about the football team that he was on. Like, we get to see him on the football team before he goes to prison, and it was cool to see his backstory of like why he ended up there, and you definitely felt like some sympathy for him after that. Okay, then there was From Air by Julianne. Again, I will talk a little bit quicker. So this one is a part of I think it's a duet she's doing, though there was a happily ever after in this one. This is actually about a traveling nurse and a smoke jumper. There's about a 10-year age gap in them. She's in this small town to be a nurse for, I think, a 6 months term is what she's going to be there for. Some of my followers are actually travel nurses, so I do know a very tiny bit about, like, this is really a career and it's something people can do, especially if they don't mind traveling. You can make good money in these contracts, but she needs a place to stay, and so she ends up becoming a roommate with both the hero and then 2 other people who there is a house and a shed nearby that like the 4 of them like live in, and one of the only rules is that you can't fuck any of the roommates. And of course her and the smoke jumper start to fall in love, and they also start to discover that they are connected in ways that they had no clue about, and we see that as we go through the book. Of course, I listened to the audio for this one as well. Then there was Keep Me by Sarah Kate. This one came out in, oops, it's upside down. This one came out in December, and I did enjoy this quite a bit. I did, but it also felt like it was lacking the Sarah Kate oomph. And I'm very excited that she's going to be doing the Salacious Legacy series, which will be a 2nd generation of the Salacious Players Club. And I hope that that one is as kinky and spicy as her other ones were. And I'm not just saying that as in like, I want more spice. The problem for me was this book was set up like our hero had these very odd kinks that our heroine was going to have to be okay with, and we didn't do like any of them. So it wasn't that, oh, there needs to be more spice in it. It's the fact that she set this up to be a very kinky book, and then it wasn't. That's what my issue with this was. But this one is a marriage of convenience. They're supposed to be married for 1 year so that there can be a change in ownership of this manor. I'm not going to go into full details with this one. It's a much more popular one. But literally my complaints really come down to, I feel that she promised us a lot and then we didn't do it. Like, there was discussions of voyeurism and partner sharing and kinky situations, and we didn't do really like any of them. And I'm like, what was the point of there being rumors about him having these swingers parties and doing that if we like didn't do it, right? So that's more of a thing of like, that is a, I don't know. I know not every author wants to write those scenes, but then don't make that his kink, because instead it feels like he just completely gives up all his kinks once he has a woman, but yet our woman is someone who would like those. So it just felt odd. It felt very odd to me, but it's still good writing. There was still some moments that teared me up, so it's not though I hated it, but I was a bit disappointed. Okay, then there was The Holiday Clause by Anne Einerson. This was just a cute little novella. It is partially related to her other small town series, though this did take place in a different small town. And this was a only 1 bed. They're trying to throw a wedding for his best friend and her older brother. So yeah, it's a brother's best friend, and they have a little fling between the 2 of them. Duke of Lust by Mariah Stone. This was the next book in the Dukes of Sin series, and this one was okay. Like, I liked it okay. This one is Chastity and I can't remember his first name, but the Duke of Lust, and this is a brother's best friend. This was a virgin heroine. This was a there's a bet between the 2 of them. This takes place as a house party. This had a wallflower like makeover. She's also a bit of a scientist. Like, there was just a lot going on in this one, and it was just okay. There was Filthy Savage by Lillian Harris. Now, I did enjoy this one a good amount. It just went... Now, Lillian Harris writes a lot of over-the-top stuff, okay? She does. It's her brand. So this isn't a complete critique of that. I just felt like I think this book had a really strong beginning. This is a secret baby from a one-night stand. He's in the mafia. She's just getting out of a bad relationship. They have a one-night stand. And they don't exchange any information. So she's not going to be able to find him later on. And then she is pregnant, has his baby, they aren't able to find each other. And then later on, she runs into him again when he's like killing someone for the mafia. And now he is like, oh my God, it's this woman that I've been thinking of all this time. I'm going to make her mine. And this child, whether it's mine or not, is going to be mine now. Like, I love all of that parts of it. But the secondary plot to this one, with the suspense element to it, was so unneeded. It just made everything more complicated. It added more pages to the page count. And I don't know. It wasn't the best. But still a pretty thrilling time for the first half of it. Then there was The Wild Wolf's Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. Another 4-star here. This one is, I don't know, what are we at? Book 5 in the 5-pack series. And this is probably my favorite book in the series. Now, I only gave it 4 stars, and I have given other books in the series more stars. But the thing is, my opinion of these books has changed through time. And honestly, my opinion of Kate C. Wells's books have changed through time. I used to rate them quite highly. They're very angsty stories and very, like, gut-wrenching. And the thing is, I don't like the type of angst she writes anymore. It is trauma porn. It is just absolute, like, self-loathing, and, like, so much of that is in her books. And it's depressing. I'll say it. And that doesn't mean there isn't a place for it. It doesn't mean there aren't some redeeming qualities to it. But I just don't need that level of pain in my books. Now, again, this one, there was some things that I really liked about it. And this is one of, like, because it's a rejected mate, of course, they have a chance to be together and it gets ruined. Part of it is she's so traumatized that she can't accept that she has a mate. And the way that she acts when they have their first, like, mating together, she acts like the hero is evil. And that scars him as well, because they're both just doing what their bodies are making them do. But it's very traumatizing for the both of them. And this then leads to them being separated for many years. But of course, they can't stop thinking about each other because they are mates. So they're going to run into each other again. And hopefully things are going to go a little better the next time. I really love to look at a different type of pack in this series. That's really what this one did, is we get to see a completely different pack and how they run things. And I did think that was pretty interesting and a breath of fresh air compared to some of that. Waiting on You by Nikki Ash. Whoopsie, I have some goodies in this one. This one sounds a lot like Filthy Savage, except it's not a dark romance. It's a contemporary romance. And this one is another, they have a one-night stand or like a weekend-long fling, and they don't share any information with each other, though the hero does try to leave her his information. She definitely, like, doesn't want to know it. She wants to have this fling and never think about it again. And she ends up pregnant. And now she can't contact the man, even though she does want to. She isn't able to. Now, the good thing is he did keep tabs on her. He was able to find out who she was. But because he tried to leave her his phone number, he thinks she can contact him. And he's just, you know, trying to respect her wishes and, like, let her come to him. Sorry, my brain wasn't getting it. And eventually, though, he can't wait anymore. So he decides to make himself known to her. And it's a good thing he does, because she's still pregnant. This doesn't jump ahead years or anything. Luckily, she's still pregnant, and she's actually like, I'm so sorry that I didn't keep your information. I didn't know this was going to happen. And he goes about completely winning her over and sweeping her off her feet, and it is beautiful. All right, then there was, oh, this sweet little one here, A Simple Life by Melanie Moreland. This is literally a little farm romance is what it is. We have a single mom who's just gotten out of a really like toxic marriage, and her daughter are starting over in this small town, and she is renting a house from a man named John, who they have a couple run-ins with each other and they don't get off to a good start. And then he discovers that she's his tenant. Now, that might sound weird. How wouldn't he know who she was? Well, his sister handles kind of like the booking side of things, and he just does like the maintenance and is like the landlord. And so when he discovers that this woman is living there and that she has a little girl, he immediately starts to fall for the little girl. Like, it's so adorable how he does. But there's also still a lot of kind of friction between them, and John realizes that he is absolutely the one in the wrong here and goes about trying to win her back over. And it really just is it's a grumpy sunshine. We get off to a bad start, but then they completely fall in love, and it's just so cute. The little girl calls him Farmer John, and he does all these sweet things for them, and it's just adorable. Like, it ends up adorable. Like, Melanie Moreland, she will always bring the cute factor, okay? She definitely will. Okay, then there was Your Rules to Break by Rachel Berg, and this was a new to me author. This is a football romance. This is a fake dating. Her ex is marrying her sister, and so she needs a date to the wedding, and the hero kind of steps in to be like, that'll be me, I'm gonna do that. And the heroine is like, but we're gonna have to pretend to be dating until the wedding, otherwise my family's gonna know that it's fake. And he's like, whoopsie, okay, I guess I will. And we kind of go from there. So definitely bit of a crazy one, but it was also very sweet. This one also dealt with, our heroine has OCD, and she has some like serious like tics and like outward things because of it. And I loved how accepting the hero was and how welcoming about it he was. And it was a very sweet story. I really liked it, and I definitely will read more from this author for sure. Okay, so those were all of the 4-star reads. Now we'll go on to the 4.5-star reads. So all of these had something that just didn't quite push them to 5 stars. But again, we have quite a few of those. We have 8 books that I gave 4.5 stars to. So, alrighty here. We have Forever the Highlands by Samantha Young. This one, I had an ALC of it, and then I was absolutely not expecting Valentine PR sent along a physical copy to celebrate release, which was so sweet. So this was the final book in the Highlands series, and this one was about Fife and Alid, I think it is, or Ellie, I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry, but yeah, Fife is the hero in this one. And yeah, this is a brother's best friend, of forbidden romance in that aspect. She's also pined after him for a long time. We also see multiple occasions where she tries to make it known how much she cares about him, and he continually is kind of pushing her away because he's afraid of messing things up. He also has very much been loved by her family. Okay, her family is a found family for him. So he also doesn't want to mess things up that way. Now things get escalated. Ouch. Shit, that hurt. I just banged my elbow on that thing right there. Ouch. Ooh. Damn. Also, he discovers that he has a child when the mother leaves her at his door. And so now Ellie ends up becoming a big part of taking care of his daughter too, which really opens his eyes to what a nurturing and wonderful woman that she is, which was really beautiful. But one of the things why this one was a 4.5, the little detractor, is that he does reject her multiple times, and that's just a really hard thing to come back from. You know, like, I think Samantha Young does a good job of showing why he would reject her, but it's still hard to see. It's still hard to see him do. And so it's hard to forgive him sometimes when we see that. Like, it just is. But that's why it wasn't quite up there. But the narration was amazing. This was narrated by Shane East and Zara Hampton Brown. and it still was worth your time for sure, especially if you've read other books in the series. I mean, you should absolutely binge the Highlands series. Okay, then there is King of the Cage by Mila Kane. Gave this 4.5 stars. I just talked about this in another video I filmed recently too. So this one is a mafia. It's an Irish meets Italian mafia. There's a secret society. There is a fake marriage, which turns into a forced marriage. The hero forces her to marry him. And then, yeah, rival families. They're trying to take down a cult. Lots of good stuff in this one. I think this one was a wee bit too long and had a wee bit too many different like side quests going on, but overall really solid, really good story. Okay, Undeniably Married, which I almost said earlier too. This one is a older woman, younger man, friend of the family situation. It's a football player and a doctor. And it's also a runaway bride. In the beginning, the heroine is running away from her wedding, and she ends up going to Vegas with the hero, and they get married for fun, which I always a little roll my eyes at, because like, who just gets married for fun? But they get married for fun, and then once they get home, for publicity reasons, they need to stay married for a certain amount of time. And then the hero goes about trying to convince the heroine to never divorce him because he wants to be with her forever. So there we go. Okay, there was Married to the Devil by Lillian Lark. This book is a MMF between a demon, a gargoyle, and a witch. And the witch and the gargoyle get married in an arranged marriage. And then the demon is kind of a bodyguard / he's a good friend of the heroine. And also the gargoyle wants to use the demon for his skills and powers. And so he knows that keeping the demon close to both him and his wife will be a good way to do that. But of course, they all start to fall in love, and good luck trying to keep distance like that. Like, just good luck. There was Empire of Temptation by Mila Finelli. Just talked about this one the other day. This one is the first in her New York State Mafia, or New York, I think it's New York State Mafia or something. I don't know. Or the Kings of New York State. I don't know. Whatever it's going to be called. This is the start of a new one. It does connect with the Kings of Italy, so we definitely see some crossover characters. Our hero gets sent to America to, basically he's supposed to kidnap the daughter of a ex-mafia member, but instead he ends up falling in love with her, and sooner or later she's going to find out why he was there in the first place, and things are going to get real sticky for them both. This was super hot. I enjoyed it a whole bunch, and I think Mila Finelli has still got it, man. I'm really excited for this series from her, what it's going to be. Then there was Stealing Sunshine by Hannah Cowan. This was not my first sapphic romance, but it was my first contemporary one. I've read it in monster genre, I've read it in dark romance, I've read it in paranormal, but I've never read it in just a contemporary romance. So this one was best friend's twin sister actually. One of our heroines, since there's two of them, is the daughter of the mayor, and she's bisexual, though her mother is only ever shoving men at her. She very much wants her to be with men, and is just pushing that really hard. And the heroine has a huge crush on her best friend's twin sister, who has just moved to town. She's going to be a teacher there, and she needs a place to live. And so what should happen but she should be moving in with this other woman who is totally gone for her, but feels like she needs to hide it. So definitely some grumpy sunshine stuff going on, but their relationship was so sweet and very sexy, and I enjoyed it a whole hell of a lot. Absolutely did. Gave it 4.5 stars. Okay, then we have another MMF actually, Stolen Chances by Cleo Evans. So this is one of the ones that's not out yet. Like I said, I have a couple of those I'm about to do. This one will be out the end of January. And this one is like I said, an MMF. It's a single mom with twin boys. It's a romantic suspense. And then it is a bisexual awakening for one of the heroes. The other one's already bisexual. It's also a second chance for one of the couples. And there's some BDSM and some romantic suspense within this series as well. And I really like this. This is book 2 in the series by Cleo Evans. And from what I've seen, there will be one more in this series as well. Then the other one I gave 4.5 stars is Just Like That by Lena Hendricks. This one will be out very soon. Maybe no, it won't quite be out by the time you see this video, but it will be out soon. This is book 4 in the King family series. This one is about JP, and our heroine is, I can't remember her name. Sorry, bad with that. But her nephew is supposedly JP's son. And so she has come to town with her nephew because her sister has died and she's now the guardian, but her sister left partial guardianship to the hero as well. But he didn't know he had a kid. He doesn't believe that this is his kid. He doesn't even remember this woman. And so we are in a very sticky situation with everybody right there. I'll just say that. There's also still a mess going on in the King family about their father, and that he probably killed their mother. And how are they going to prove that? How are they going to make sure he goes to prison forever? Just lots of messy stuff happening in that family for sure. But I also love it. It was great. I gave it 4.5 stars. All right. Now we have the 5 stars. And I do have 2 6 stars as well. So 5 stars, my next level here. And we have quite a few of those. We have See It Through by Julia Wolf. This is the start of her Kelly Ranch series. Y'all know how I feel about the Kellys, okay? I love them. This is Lachlan and Elena from Sweet Like Poison. This is their family, and these are their romances. And this one is a brother's best friend, though he is a brother's former best friend. And he'd once been like a member to their family, and then he left. He's been a famous photographer, and he has actually went through some trauma in doing that. He was photographing during the war, and some rough stuff happened to him. He's actually had a struggle with his physical health and, of course, a bit of his mental health. And during the time that he was going through everything with that, halfway across the world, his father died. And his father had been trying to reach him for a long time. He'd either ignored those or he was not well when his father was really, really dying. And so when he finally makes it back home, his plan is to sell off his dad's stuff and move on. There's a few things that trip him up. Number one, his father didn't leave everything straight out to him. He gave 50% ownership to his son and to our heroine, Hannah. So Remy isn't able to just sell, cut and run. He has to deal with Hannah. And Hannah very much was being kind of mentored by this father, and learned a lot from him and everything, saw him as kind of like a second dad or almost like a grandpa. And so she is spitting mad about how Remy disrespected him by not coming home. But part of the thing too is that Remy's dad was not loving and kind to him the way that he was with Hannah in his later life. He was actually an abusive drunk. And so Remy doesn't owe his father shit, though Hannah doesn't quite see that to start with. She doesn't quite see that at the beginning. But anyway, love this. Of course, I'm absolutely obsessed with Julia Wolf's stories, and I can't wait to see what happens in the Kelly Ranch. It's going to be great. Okay, then there was Bourbon and Secrets by Victoria Wilder. This was book 2 in the Bourbon Boys. This one was a single dad, and our heroine and him, it's enemies to lovers. She's also an undercover investigator who's working with the FBI to try to uncover some pretty bad shit. And she's actually undercover as a burlesque dancer. So things are going to get spicy with these two. There was She's a Wild One by Kristen Proby. This wrapped up the Wild family series, or the Wilds of Montana. Sorry. Oop, hold on. Alexa, stop. This wrapped up the Wilds of Montana, and this couple, they are second chance romance. They were in love with each other, I think 8 years in the past, but the hero's dad was threatening this relationship. And because the heroine was quite young, the hero's 10 years older than her, I think, he very much pushed her away in a very cruel way. And since their families were already enemies, they were kind of a Romeo and Juliet behind the scenes. She is just absolutely devastated and tries to forget him as best as she can, you know, tries to. Good luck, honey, good luck. But it was very, like, it just ached. It ached so much to see what he was forced to do. But now the father's dead, and also there is a marriage of convenience that needs to take place, and our hero has no other reason to hold back anymore. And he's going to win the heroine over, and he's going to do whatever he has to do to prove that he's her man, and they're meant to be, and nothing's going to stand in his way. And I love to see it. A Tempest of Desire by Lorraine Heath. This was absolutely wonderful. This is a woman gets stranded on our hero's small island, who is where he goes to get some peace and quiet. She is actually a courtesan who has a protector back in London, and she has taken a ride on her hot air balloon and been stranded on this island. They end up having a very whirlwind weekend together. And the hero has a secret he's been hiding since he was in an accident a few years ago. So he very much has distanced himself from his family and everything. And he wants to keep the heroine. But our heroine, who has been a courtesan or a mistress for a while now, she doesn't want to do that anymore. And the only way she'd be able to be with the hero is if she kept doing that. And so there's going to be kind of this divide between them, because that's not the type of life that she wants to live anymore. There was The Proposal Play by Lauren Blakely. This was a hockey romance. It was a friends to lovers slow burn. There wasn't a ton of angst in this. They end up marrying in Vegas. And what is it? It was sports romance and marrying in Vegas. And they just slowly fall for each other. And it's really beautiful. I love it. I love it so much. Then there was Mr. Broody by Piper Rain, which is another hockey romance. This one is a single dad, second chance romance. Yeah, the heroine is back in town, and the hero and her, they were high school sweethearts, but something broke them up. He wanted her to be able to live her dreams and go do what she wanted to do, and she's been absolutely miserable in certain aspects, and so has he. He has actually an adopted son, so this doesn't have other woman drama, and it's also a case of where her family is his family, and so there's some awkwardness with that too, of like, she's the one been traveling the world, and he's been back at home being loved by her family. So it's not that she's an outsider, but there's a lot that she's missed out on that she needs to get back into, we'll say. But I absolutely adore how the hero wins the heroine over in that book. Like, I had to put that out there. It's one of my favorite second chance romances I read in 2024. It was amazing. Okay, then there was Reckless Love by Willow Astor, and this one is also a football, friends to lovers, single dad. This is a part of her single dad playbook series, and this one is they are forbidden from being together currently because she's a cheerleader for the team that he's a player for, and that's forbidden, but she's also the godmother to his son, so there's that. She has a stalker currently, and all of their friends want them to be together, so it's really a like, she's afraid that it'll ruin their relationship, but he's like, girl, we'd be perfect for each other. You're my best friend. Let's do it. Also, the heroine is a secret author, which I thought was cute. And then the last 5-star I want to mention, just briefly, because this one doesn't come out till February, but I read Unloved by Peyton Corinne, and I just wanted to squeeze it in there to say that I adored this book so much. I didn't like it quite as much as Unsteady. Unsteady was a 6-star read for me, but this was still very strong, and when it's come out, I'll go into more details about why that is, but this one was Ro and Freddie, who we saw in the background of Unsteady. And the other thing I will say is that this one starts at about the same time as Unsteady did, and so we see Sadie and Reese's romance happening parallel to this one. And I loved that. This also involves, she is his tutor. He has dyscalculia. It's hard to say. I know what that is. That's where you mess up numbers. And then dyslexia is where you mess up words. And you can have both or one or the other. Okay, then we just have 2 6-star reads to share. And these I feel I don't have to talk about too much because they were on my top 10 list of 2024, and I loved both of them so much. There was Horde King of Shadow. This has dragons, fated mates, a forced marriage, a heroine who has magic visions, and she also needs to learn to ride a dragon herself. And it was just a wild ride, literally. I enjoyed it so much. Great for fans of Fourth Wing, as well as some other ones where people are learning how to ride a dragon. And then there was Sweet Prison by Neva Altaj. This was my favorite book by Neva Altaj. This is a step-sibling romance, though our hero is in prison for, I think, 17 years of the heroine's life, so there definitely wasn't anything appropriate happening before he gets out. And yeah, he grows to rely on her through the letters that she writes. She's feeding him information about his the family business and making sure he stays up to date, which is all really cool stuff. So yeah, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So there you go. Those are 31 recent and upcoming releases that I've read. Those are my rankings for them. Let me know what you thought of them. I'll have links to all of these down below if you'd like to order them. It does help out both the author and the channel if you use my link. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.